is Lady Boule, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel, and we are commanded to love each other. Today I'm talking about Black Americans and Africans. Are Black Americans jealous of Africans? That is the question. Every time something comes up about Africans on this channel, and if I say something that Africans don't think is flattering to them, they'll say that we're jealous. Not everybody, but invariably somebody will come on here and say, oh, well, you're jealous. We're jealous of Africans. And I never know what that means. Black Americans are jealous of Africans because we're really now just coming into the knowledge of Africans. We've been living over here in North America, isolated from Africa for all of these years. So we don't even know anything about Africans. They know a lot more about us and about what's going on here than we know about what's going on over there. So they say we're jealous of them every time something comes up, like when Akon said Nigerians were the smartest people in the world. And I just said, well, if you're the smartest, then you ought to have some answers, some solutions. And so some Africans, Nigerians, and maybe some other Africans took issue with that. And some agreed that Akon should have just kept his mouth shut. But some thought, well, no, you African Americans are just jealous because we are the smartest. I don't know how we evaluate that other than based on something some white person said. This guy's name is Frank Lutz. He is a political consultant best known for coming up with talking points for Republicans. So a few years ago, he came up with this talking point that Nigerians were the most successful immigrants to the United States. And then that expanded into, oh, Nigerians are more successful than African Americans and they can come over here and do well. Why can't Black Americans do better? This was a talking point. This is one of the ways that America tries to get out of taking responsibility and acknowledging what was done to Black Americans. So they're constantly comparing Black Americans who were set here as a bottom caste. They're constantly looking for people to compare us to make us look bad, to make it seem like, oh, they're just lazy. They just don't want to work. And so this is what they did with the Nigerians. They took the fact that Nigerians who come here already educated, because they won't let them come here if they're not. So Nigerians have that advantage over the average Black American. They come here educated. And these Americans, knowing full well that they will not let Africans come here if they're not educated or have some means of taking care of themselves, will point to them and say to Black Americans, look at them, look how well they're doing. Why can't you do that well? They use the success of these few Africans that they let come into this country to deflect away from the brutal history of Black Americans in this country. They don't ever want to acknowledge that what was done was inhumane and evil. So they'll use anybody to make us look bad and to make us look like liars. They just want to look at this little small group of Nigerians that they started letting come. And I say Nigerians, it was other Africans too, but Nigerians are the largest number of African immigrants. So they're the ones that get compared the most. They don't compare us to Jamaicans and Haitians and people from the Caribbean because they have a similar history that we have. They were brought here in slave ships and used and used and used. And now America wants to say, well, slavery didn't mean anything. 300 years of slavery and Jim Crow and not allowing you to go to school, not even teaching you the language. We never had a formal way of even learning how to speak real English until 100 years after slavery ended. But now we're supposed to be able to keep up with everybody. So they took the fact that Nigerians come here already educated for the most part, and they are smart. And we were very proud of Nigerians at the beginning until they started trying to weaponize Nigerians against us because they had told that lie about Africans. that they can't learn. But then they very strategically and very cleverly indoctrinated Africans before they let them come here. So now all of a sudden, Africans are better than we are. That's what the propagandists say. So I just want to make the point that Black Americans are not jealous of Africans based on white people's talking points. Anything to do with a job or an education in America and how well they're doing in America, Black Americans are not jealous of Nigerians or Africans because of that. Now I'm going to tell why I'm jealous of Africans, but it has nothing to do with white people's talking points. But I first want to finish what I'm saying about this. Okay, here's a list of places where highly educated migrants come from. Number 1, India. Number 2, China. Number 3, Philippines. Number 4, United Kingdom. Number 5, Germany. Number 6, Poland. Number 7, Mexico. And number 8, Russia. Now, this comes from the World Bank. This information comes from Statista, which is a reputable German data collecting company. These are OECD countries. OECD stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. I don't know how you get to be a member of this organization, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with how well you cooperate with the United States and other Western countries. As you can see, there are no African countries on this list, so I don't know how Africans get measured against this list. Here's a chart of the educational attainment of the foreign-born population from Africa by selected country of birth, and this was done from 2008 through 2012. This chart lists educational attainment from less than high school graduate or some college, and then the bachelor's degree or higher. And on this chart, just looking at the bachelor's degree or higher, the Egyptians are the most educated at 63.9%, and the Nigerians are the second most educated at 60.9%. So this was from 2008 to 2012. Now, what this says is that these people are already educated when they get here. So you would expect that they would do well in employment if they're already educated when they come here. And we also have to take into account that these are the people from the elite classes of these countries. These are not the poor people. The poor people stay at home because Nigeria is, by the World Health Association, the poorest country in the world. And the way Black Americans look at things, we don't just look at the Nigerians or the Africans that come to the United States. And the white people will compare that small group of elite Nigerians against the totality of 45 or 50 million Black Americans. By the same token, Black Americans don't just look at that small group of immigrants that come to the United States. Black Americans look at the entire Nigerian nation. And that's how come we don't see why they're comparing themselves to Black Americans. They should be comparing themselves to their own people. This chart came from a site called Africa Check, and it says, yes, Nigerian Americans do well, but aren't most successful ethnic group in the United States. And they list the highest educational attainment of U.S. diaspora groups by birth, and this was done in 2016. They list the country and the percent with graduate degree or higher. So again, India is number 1 at 44%, and Nigeria is down here number 11 at 27.9%. Now that's good, but they don't have the most college degrees of all the immigrant groups in the United States. And I would also add that the Indians and the Taiwanese and the Russians and all of these other people are not always out here bragging about how many degrees they have. Here is a list of median household income by detailed ancestry, and these are immigrants to the United States. And there again, we see the Indians here at number one, making the most money of any immigrant group in the United States. So this is the list from 13 through 27, and no African nation has even shown up yet as being a top earner in the United States. This is 28 to 43 of the top immigrant earners in the United States, Scottish to Yugoslavs. This is 44 through 59 of the top immigrant earners in the United States, and the Africans show up in this group. The Egyptians at 50, Ghanaians at 54, Barbadians at 55, Trinidadian and Tobagoans at 56, and Nigerians at 57. So Ghanaians are earning more in the United States than Nigerians, but you never hear Ghanaians bragging about it. That's class. Even if you do brag about it among yourselves, that's fine. But you don't have to make a song of it, because there's always somebody doing better than you are. And so this is how the immigrants are doing in the United States. I think they're all doing pretty well. And that's the purpose of moving to a Western country like the United States. So you can work hard and make a good living for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. My point is that the people who are doing the most bragging are bragging, but they're not even right in what they're bragging about. They're not number one in education, and they're not number one in earnings. And I'm talking about Nigerians. It's all right to be proud of your accomplishments, but it is a mistake for any group of black people to let white people use you against another group of black people, because they'll take that same group of black people and use them against you. Now, I'm going to say this again. Black Americans are not jealous of Africans based on anything that any white people have said, like how well you're doing in school, or how well you're doing on a job, or how hard you work, and run around calling yourselves model minorities. Africans are not called model minorities. Asians are called model minorities in the United States. So if you're calling yourself a model minority as an African, especially a Nigerian, you are mistaken. You are not the model minorities in the United States. And I will say this again as well. Black Americans were proud. And I know I was, and a lot of black people were proud when Africans came to the United States, to these elite universities, and did so well, because they had kept us out of it, and they had lied and said we weren't smart enough to do well in those schools. So when the Africans came and did so well, we were like, okay, you see, you were wrong. But what they did was they basically tried to take the Africans and weaponize them against us. So this is where this misunderstanding, as far as I'm concerned, has come. But I'm going to end this video by telling you that there are some things about Africans that I am actually jealous of. The first thing would be their peace. I believe that if I lived in an African country, I could have a peace that I don't have in the United States. Peace within myself, and being around people who are like me, who look like me. You're not shocked when I come in the restaurant and I'm a black person, and I'm black. We've been in this country longer than the average white person, but yet and still, they have a sense of entitlement over black Americans. I believe if I lived in an African country, I would not feel that anxiety and sometimes anger that I feel towards white people when they come across like that. Also, I am jealous. I guess if I was going to be jealous of Africans, it would be of place, of having a place in the world that I belong to, that my ancestors belong to, that we have been in that place all of our lives. Just like in South Africa, when those European people came down there trying to displace them, they knew that that was their country. And so they stood up for themselves. You don't get to come in here and tell me it's your country. No, it's our country, not yours. Now, the South Africans might still be struggling on some level, but they know that's their country. So that's what I would be jealous of Africans of the peace, the sense of peace that you have in knowing that everybody around me looks like me. So I don't feel out of place, or I don't feel awkward or uncomfortable no matter where I am. You feel that, okay, well, my humanity is respected here because everybody sees me as a human being. I would be jealous of Africans who can go to the beach and just have a good time without, or they might not want me to come in this restaurant, or they may not want me to come in that hotel, and I'm gonna go in there anyway. But then you got to go in there, and somebody gonna make a scene or do something stupid or ignorant because white Americans really haven't had to develop their humanity. Everybody else around them has to develop, but they don't have to develop. So that would be what I would be jealous of Africans of, and I am, because I wish I had that. But as far as being jealous about some test scores or getting in these old stupid colleges that don't mean anything, or a job that anybody could get, that does not, I wouldn't be jealous of an African for that. But it's their peace and their place and their sense of who they are in the world that we lost in the transition called the transatlantic slave trade. And it takes a while to get over it. And that is what Africans and other people don't understand. It takes a while to get over it. And many of us are not over it. And even the ones of us who handle it well, because I have a great life in the United States. But there is that sense of place. Where is my place, my real place? And that would be what I would be jealous of Africans for. And that, and only that, and only that. Okay, y'all, but thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.